Hello, this is Dante from Cold to Sold again. So this is going to be income advice that will actually help you get approved with bad credit. So one of the first questions I ask for leads is, are you working full time and getting pay stubs? So the reason why I ask that is because this is what banks mostly take. Now, yes, they're self-employed, and yes, there's approvals where they don't need income. But most of the people I deal with that are going to come through me, and maybe most people watching this, are not going to have the best credit, which is fine. Like I told people 1,000 times, and I'll have to say it again. I deal with bad credit. That is my specialty. So this is why I ask, are you working full time getting pay stubs? Because the bank, they only do take pay stubs, right? There's a lot of people out there. Oh, the bank, I get a written check or I get e-transfer. That does not apply to employees. If you work a regular job, like that's not something that the bank is going to take for your situation. Now, I'm going to make a whole separate video on how self-employed works because they do take e-transfers and they'll take checks if you're self-employed. But if you're an employee, you need to have pay stubs, right? So that is what's going to get you the best chance of getting approved. A lot of people think the credit score is going to ruin me. I have income on my credit score. Credit score, yes, is very important. Banks have their internal scoring systems on how they score you. But when you have that income, a lot of the times for a lot of people, it's saving grace. That proof of income comes super clutch. I understand the job market out there is tough. Sometimes you got to get a job where they're not paying you on payroll or it's e-transfer or whatever, checks. But when it comes to getting a car loan on finance, we need pay stubs. We need pay stubs. Now, please, we're not doing no fake pay stubs. There's no point. I'm not doing fraud. So if you're thinking of that, don't even bother because I'm not going to even send you to a bank, right? Um, for one, it's not good because we can lose the bank. And also just karma, right? It's like, you know, this business already has enough fraud in it. I want to be moral. I still want to have morals in the business. I want to be in the business for a long time, right? I don't want banks to be like this guy's sending us fraud pay stuff all the time. Like it's not a good look on me, and it's not a good look on you as a person who wants a car, right? I want to deal with for the most part morally ethic people as well. So this is why we got to make sure everything's verified. And there's no point of even trying to go that route because they're gonna always do a verbal verification, right? So when the banks see those pay stubs, I talked a little bit in the last video, they're going to calculate it, but they're always going to do a verbal verification. So just know that your HR supervisor or your manager or whoever is going to get a call, right? The bank is going to call a higher up to verify your income. That's always going to happen. People will tell me, I don't want them calling my workplace. I don't want everybody knowing my situation. I understand that, right? Now there is alternatives to this. There is alternatives. Now let's say you get direct deposit, but for some reason they don't issue you pay stubs. Okay, there's this thing called a banking link, right? Almost every bank has this. They have a banking link. Now you're like, what is a banking link? A banking link is basically a link where they connect to your bank account and they have access to transaction histories and bank statements to see deposits coming in. So you can consider this supplementary proof of income. Now, with this is usually only if you have generic pay stubs, like the pay stubs look sus. Like they're gonna look at pay stubs and be like, "Yo, this looks like this was made on Word document." Like the banks aren't dumb. There's no point of trying to outsmart the banks because most times they're gonna catch you and you're just gonna look like goofy. Which is why I say don't send fraud in. Just get a job, get me a pay stub. There's banks that take first pay stub, first week on the job. You send in a pay stub and a job letter, you can get an approval. All right. But if the pay stubs are looking generic, they're going to ask for supplementary proof of income. And that's where you can go the banking link route. Now, like I said, you can also use the banking link if you have direct deposit. So the money comes into your bank account, it shows the company's name you work at, but they just don't issue you pay stubs. Then you can go this route, the banking link route, and they'll still probably do a verbal verification to call. Once both of those line up, boom, most times income gets verified as long as everything calculates well, and then you can start looking for a car. So best route, pay stubs, and a verbal verification call. Worst case scenario, supplementary proof of income, and they'll probably want a banking link. A lot of people, they don't really like the banking link. They think it's a fraud. They think it's a scam. I'm not forcing people. That's just a way to expedite the process, but also sometimes that is our only option, right? If you don't have pay stubs, like bank statements alone for most banks, they don't want it. They want some sort of supplementary proof that, okay, you do work there. So that is an alternative route. But usually it's very simple. Once we get the pay stubs in, we send them in. Oh, they also do have to be within 35 days. So, you know what I mean? Like, there's no point in trying to pull a fast one. Like, oh, I see you told me you work somewhere, um, and you left there 2 months ago, and you're trying to send me an old pay stub. Pay stubs have to be 35 days. Within 35 days. Some banks 30 days, some are 35. Um, they're not playing around, right? If you just went on leave for something, right, and you're trying to still send in an old pay stub, like the thing is they're going to call, right? So if they call your company and you're like, yeah, they're on leave right now or something, or EI, like it's, you can't pull a fast one, right? So that's why I always ask for recent pay stubs when I start working on your application. I'll be like, okay, can you send me 2 most recent pay stubs? Now I'll ask for that usually after I get a pre-approval for you, because there's no point in me asking you to send all that, especially if it takes a lot of work to get it, and then I can't help you. It's a waste of your time, right? So usually I'll ask for this after the pre-approval. So once I send that in, like I said, they'll either go through one of these procedures, verbal verification or banking link. But yeah, once income gets verified, we're good to go. Congratulations, you're now approved. We can start looking for a car. This is my favorite part, right? But yeah, it's very simple, but yeah, that's how I kind of structure my qualification question. That's the first question I ask. Are you getting income? Right? Because bad credit, it's not the end of the world. Income is there to save the day. And it does save the day. For a lot of my clients, if they didn't have income, we'd be cooked. Right? So it's hard out there. I get that. But pay stubs is your best friend when it comes to getting a car with bad credit. Um, keep it legit. Don't try to do fraud, bro. Like, we're not doing that. We're just not. We're trying to do good business out here, because there's a lot of people that do shady business. I want to do good business. I have good relationships with a lot of the banks that I work with, and I'm going to maintain that. I don't care how beautiful a client is, how beautiful a girl is. Like, I do not care. I'm not losing my OMVIC. I'm not throwing away all my business for some hot girl to do fraud. No, not worth it. But that's pretty much, helpful advice that actually helps when it comes to getting approved with bad credit. This is simple income advice. To be honest, I don't want to make the video too long, because I could talk about self-employed, but I kind of want to make a separate video in that in itself. But if you are an employee, pay stubs is the best. And now you might be asking, okay, full-time, does it have to be full-time work? Yes, it has to be full-time, because the bank, when they look at your income, they're asking them, can this person afford this loan? That is why they prefer pay stubs. Yes, there's banks that take ODSP and CPP, and some banks that do take child tax as primary, because they're longer term stable incomes, in a sense. That's what they like. That's why they like jobs. Most people that have jobs, the banks are not expecting them to quit next week or next month. Things obviously happen, people get laid off, but that is why they want pay stubs, and that's why they want full-time hours, because they do calculations, right? This is like, they calculate your maximum payment based on this income. So every bank has a different calculation. But for example, there's a bank they have different ratios. It's called a payment to income ratio, PTI. Okay, payment to income ratio. Now, this bank specifically, they have two different types. They have a 16% PTI based on the rate you get, and an 18% PTI. So what this means is, okay, so I forgot the exact numbers. Like my business partner told me about it, but I forgot. But basically, if you get a certain rate, you would be calculating at a 16% PTI. So if you got $4,000 a month in income, you're basically going to divide that by, or you're going to times that, sorry, by 0.16. Let me do the math real quick, yo, because your boy is not, school is not it, my boy. Side. 640 pay call. So what that means, your maximum payment per month can't be higher than 640. So this is how they calculate your income. This is what they're gonna do. So not every bank is like this. I'm gonna obviously do some more research on which bank has what PTIs, and because they're a little bit different. Most of them similar. I've sent so many applications that I kind of know, okay, cool, we might get something near this, but every bank does have different guidelines. But one of the banks that I work with, LendCare, this is their guideline. So this is how they calculate their payments. So people are like, oh, what payment am I gonna get? Everyone always asks me for, like, I ask someone, what's my monthly payments gonna be? It's like, okay, well, it depends on the approval, and it also depends on your income, because they're calculating this. It's gonna be different for everybody. It might be 3,500, 3,600, right? This percentage might be different based on the bank. And that's how we come up with this number right here. Now, because sometimes when the banks send pre-approvals back, it's going to come with a higher payment. They might say, okay, congratulations, you got pre-approved. You have a $700 a month maximum payment. Then we send the income in. They do their calculation. Okay, final numbers. Your max payment is now $640. Now, what that means, like I said, you can't go higher than that. So we got to find something that fits within this amount that you also like and that the bank's cool with. And at that point, that's the car we would be going with, right? So there's a lot that goes into it. No, not ratio. There's a lot that goes into it when it comes to just calculating the income. But this is the advice that I would give. If you have bad credit, gotta get a job at PayStubs. Like, you know what I mean? Even if you've been at a cash job for a while, like, if you're trying to get a car, unless you're trying to buy a car cash, cool. But if you're trying to get a car on finance, like, unless the credit's banging, you gotta get a PayStub job, and it's rough, but you gotta do what you gotta do, right? But that's pretty much how, PayStubs are helping you to get approved with bad credit. Nobody really understands. People might be, why are you asking me for PayStubs? Like, they might think it's too much information. Listen, that's why I make these videos, because I don't mind explaining it to people, but eventually over time, especially if you're watching this, like I want people to kind of know how things work a little bit. So it's just much easier when it comes to buying a car for me. It's just like, okay, cool. All right, I know what I'm doing. Okay, he's not sketchy. Okay, now we got to find a car. Okay, we got the car. Let's get insurance. Boom. Like, I want it to be a smooth and seamless process for everybody. So that's kind of why I'm trying to start making these videos, build more trust, show people a different side of me, because they probably see the crazy side all the time, which, is marketing purposes. But this is the real deal. It's the real jam. But yeah, this is a shorter video. Hopefully it makes sense. You can always DM me on Instagram or book a call on Calendly, and I'd be happy to explain it more. But this is as simple as it kind of gets when it comes to just PayStubs and how, income kind of works in a grand scheme of things when it comes to the auto industry and financing. So hopefully you guys enjoyed. Hopefully you learned something. Like I said, I'm always available to reach out. Just don't hit me up 2 a.m. Boy's going to be asleep like ski. But that's it for today. See you guys in the next one. Peace.